You know what Random Review doesn't do enough of? I mean, besides non-Transformers, I know, I need to get better. It doesn't do enough Armada toys, because there are some worth talking about, but I kind of keep all of mine stuffed in a box under the bed, and I totally forget I even own them. But I did remember I had this guy, so let's talk about him for a bit. This is Wheeljack. Yeah, apparently Aaron Archer thought the name sounded like a bad guy, even though Wheeljacks are tools used to fix cars. Let's all forgive him. He was new. But yeah, this is Armada Wheeljack, looking very futuristic in a very sleek, kind of like almost like a Le Mans racer. It's got a bit of a dome shape to it, but it does look like a very high performance kind of Euro style sports car that, you know, it would probably clock in around 200 miles an hour if you really let it. So this definitely suits the needs for like super fast, super cool looking vehicles. That part I dig. As you can see, he is cast in a strange shade of plastic that you can see here in the bright lights. Now, it's supposed to be, like in the show, he's like a pitch black, but here you can see it's actually much more like a dark teal, like a super dark teal color. That's because this is when Hasbro just outright refused to release anything that was just flat and monotone in color. They had to throw in some kind of coloration and shading to it. I don't know why. They thought kids wouldn't buy a straight-up black toy? I guess. I don't know. It was just a strange time. Speaking of color changes, he's primarily relying on yellow for his accent color, whereas in the show and the original Japanese toy, you'd actually get a lot of blue highlights. So again, some intentional inaccuracies. Have no idea why. This toy's got a lot of strangeness going on, and we have not even touched the surface of it. One of the strange things is he's one of the very few Transformers I can remember that is actually a traitorous Autobot. That was, I'm trying to think in fiction. I'm sure there's others, but you know, it's very, very common to see Decepticons and even Predacons go Autobot or Maximal. You very rarely see the reverse, so that does give Wheeljack some interesting distinction in the Transformers mythos. We can see that in a very neat detail where across his Autobot sigil there is a huge scar revealing gold internal detailings, and stamped underneath a very tiny hood ornament-esque Decepticon symbol. So you definitely have an interesting character already. I like that visual aspect of it, though I don't like how it's just blotted out solid red, not even like trying to cut between the lines or anything. That was always frustrating here. We look to the rear. We see the top has some off-white for the rear section, as well as red for the tail lights. We can also see that same gold that it was his internal parts on his hubcaps. So he has plenty of coloration going on. I also like this kind of very pale, kind of lilac color for his windshield. Gives him a different look, but it still looks like a windshield color. So good on ya. I like that. So we're going to set him aside because now we need to reveal his Minicon gimmick, and for that, we need to see his Minicon Wind Shear. And this being one of my favorites. Done up in identical colors to his partner with a little bit more reliance on red. He is this chubby, fat little stealth bomber of a vehicle. It's a very cool design. I like it. There's a lot of subtle details to it. The red accent, I wish went all the way to the tip, but hey, I will take what I can get. He still looks pretty good. You know, and actually his smaller size lets those colors break him up a lot more than Wheeljack, so it kind of works. And while he's very fat underneath, his hands, or his robot mode arms, do kind of work as extra thrusters, if you so imagine. And you even have these parts here that will become his feet, if we get his pegged in correctly there, and kind of pass off as forward guns or lasers, so that definitely adds some playability to him. You can also see molded in little tiny Minicon sigils, done up this way, just like in classic Seeker style. So yeah, I kind of like this one a lot. But we need him in order to activate his Minicon gimmick, of course. 2 hard points here, 1 activation point here. And if we peg him in and press down hard enough, the gull wing doors flip open, and now we have missile launchers coming out the side. It's very Mask-esque. You know, this very much reminds me of Matt Tracker's vehicle. And yep, so they're very much gull wing door style. And now we have a proper Decepticon emblem that we can now see on the side, as well as some new red detailing. This stuff is pretty simple. There are little launcher buttons on the undersides of the gull wings, so he just launches out those yellow detailings as missiles. I like how they're disguised as kind of a trim color on the side of the vehicle. That's actually a really clever use for them. Now there's a little bit more usage for them. They got a little bit creative with these for the robots, so we're going to set those aside for now. And this is pretty much the start of transformation. See, the unfortunate thing is Wheeljack is one of those figures that kind of relies on having his Minicon available to him, because there isn't any other external way of undoing those clips. You know, you either have to force these little internal clips you see there, or you have to go in with a pin or something to press that little Minicon button down. So it's unfortunate that he actually kind of relies on his Minicon to transform, as these things, especially if you're a kid, did end up getting lost every so often. So we're going to go ahead and transform him first, just because, hey, why not? Start by flipping the legs over, which then rotate around, and then the feet like so. The arms are going to rotate upwards like this, and the whole thing is going to fold down and then fold out again. This is where everything starts getting a little bit stuck, because the tolerances, there's not a whole lot of room for error on these particular figures. So hey, that's what Wind Shear looks like in his robot mode. Taking a look at the head itself, which is very hard because it is a tiny little head. Pretty flat, actually, as far as heads go. It's got some molding detailing, and I do like his sharp red eyes. Face blots it out a little bit, but hey, he definitely has a look going for him, so that all works out well and good. I also like his little spiky-handed arms. Looks like he has spark extractors for hands, which is kind of cool. Now, he does have a nice look to him, good proportion. He's definitely up there as one of the better Minicons. His legs do have some articulation to them. They can go up and backward, and that ball joint at the knee allows rotation as well as a knee joint of sorts. The arms can't really do a whole lot unless you can actually rotate these wings all the way down, which is a little tight, but it can be done, which gives his wings a little bit more of a classic design approach of having them as kind of a backpack, and now his arms can go all the way forward like so, which makes me believe this is the intentional transformation to the little figure, as it does give him a fuller range of motion and articulation. So that works out pretty well. And again, one of my favorite Minicons. This guy is perfectly cool all on his own. So what about his big partner? Well, we need to get him to robot mode in order to see how he came out. First off, I'm going to unpeg the arms from the body. That loosens everything up. Everything gets loose in here. Sounds like a maraca all of a sudden. So the legs separate like so. Those get flipped out. Click and click again. With that, we fold out the feet from the top of the rear vehicle mode like so. Arrange those into position. Now with these fully extended, and you can hear little clicks when they are, I'm going to rotate them up like so, so they will be in their proper position. And then, just like Wind Shear, now that I think of it, everything flips down. No, not everything. You're supposed to stay there. There we go. And with that out of the way, we can flip this, slide that down, and that gives us our completed robot mode for Wheeljack. If we can actually get his heels pegged, because he is very back heavy. And now we need to recenter the camera because, he's a little tall. Definitely coming up with a very visual contrast from robot mode, but turning out to be a fairly classic design as far as a Transformer goes, especially for an Autobot. A lot more so when you really look at him a little bit too long. So we're going to do that right now by taking a look at the head and realizing that's Sideswipe. That is totally Sideswipe. Look at this. He's got the wheels in the right spot. His arms. That is Sideswipe. That is straight up Sideswipe. I don't know why. This is, from what I read, something Takara decided on, and just no one really picked up on it. He has some uniqueness to him. He's just like anything else in the Unicron trilogy. It pays tribute to the original, but definitely has some of its own value. But yeah, that's straight up that is Sideswipe's head, and with the chest being the roof of his vehicle or the hood of his vehicle, not helping things really. So yeah, that was really strange when we started noticing that. But he does have at least a color combination that makes him look fairly unique. He's got kind of a weird panda thing going on with his coloring now that I look at it. So yeah, robot mode. This is the kind of part that makes him a little bit interesting as the traitorous Autobot, because he does have such a classic style design, with the chest being the hood, the rear being the legs flipped over, the wheels being at the shoulders. It's very much a traditional Autobot, and yet he stands here a Decepticon. This was kind of a cool idea back then, and in a toy line where the whole idea was to create things that didn't look G1, he definitely had a way of standing out. Proportionally, he also comes up very nice looking. Everything pretty much the size I would want. He has kind of spindly little arms considering the rest of him, but not too bad. Not too bad. He does come up with a pretty big backpack because all of this is his big gimmicks and such. But beyond that, not too shabby. He actually does have a pretty good look to him all around. And of course, the white plastic now dominating the color scheme. This is pretty big design change now, with the gray pretty much taking a back seat. And I do like visual tricks like that with Transformers. It does emphasize the transformation itself from one for the other. You do have some more exposed yellow as well, brightening them up even further with very little exposed new gray parts. It's a definitely big visual change, and I keep saying that because it is such a stark difference. It's also because it's one of the few features to him I can really point out. He has a lot of molded detailing going on that's really cool, a lot of intricacies in the arms and the legs. Definitely has a high-tech look going, but at the same time, you'll notice I'm not really eager to go into things like, articulation, because Armada, pretty brickish. Yeah, I can go through it right now. The head, nothing. Arms, they do go up and down, very tight because of the transformation slide, but they don't go outward, except here, where it looks extremely awkward for them to go outward. He does have at least good elbows. The one on mine is super tight on the left side. Oh, but it does work. You ready for some bizarreness like I kept saying this toy had more of? Well, if I go to the left wrist here, nothing. If I go to the right wrist here, full rotation. This is again something Mr. Archer had to answer. It's like he didn't know why that happened either. And I have no idea why one wrist would swivel and the other one would not. That is absurd and ridiculous and pointless. I don't know. Hips can go up and down, back and forth, but cannot go outward in any direction. And while his knees have a swivel to them, the bend that they have breaks the transformation spot and is extremely loose because it's just meant for transformation, not meant for articulation, which means brick. He is a very, very stiff transformer, which is unfortunate and kind of strange considering by this time we had toys like Hoist that really showed us you can have articulation. Like Hoist and the Deluxe Optimus were out by now. You could have articulation in this size class, and all of his gimmick is out of the way, so why did he end up like so stiff, other than no one was really paying attention that day, I guess. On the other upside, his missiles serve a new use as he does get to wield them as club weapons, which something that fires and explodes is probably not something you want to actually have as a handheld weapon, because by my logic, the first time he thwacks Hotshot with it, they both explode. Which, no great loss there, really. So that is Armada Wheeljack. Color changes, weird plastic, half of a wrist swivel, faction changing, and I don't know what, but I don't know why the Sideswipe head either. This toy has so much strangeness going on. As a toy itself, it's very much Armada, with a gimmick that pretty big for the toy's size, low articulation for the toy's price point, and I don't know, he has his features. He's definitely a talkable toy, but it's a hard toy to recommend because he does have a lot of things coming up short on him. He's more just interesting to talk about because there's so much strangeness behind almost every aspect of him.